Hello my dear YouTuber friends, I hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video where I'll be comparing and discussing 3 separate add-on packages for Flight Simulator 2020. These are London Landmarks by Orbix, Sydney Landmarks by Orbix, and also Moscow Landmarks add-on package by FS2020. I'm not sure how to pronounce that design. I'll be giving you my thoughts on this and how they compare to the default scenery. So without further ado, let's get to the first payware package add-on, which is the London Landmarks. So here I am flying around London in the default Flight Simulator 2020 scenery. It's pretty clear it's London. You've got the O2 Arena just ahead of us. It's got other landmarks as well, like the Shard, the Tower of London and Tower Bridge, but it's missing quite a few significant landmarks. Things like the Gherkin. My brother had a flat a 2-minute walk from the Gherkin. So I know London well. I live about an hour away from London. I know the area pretty well. And I was pretty disappointed actually that a lot of buildings were missing. Something else I also noticed, and I'll discuss this later on in the video. Check the timeline of the video. I've segregated it so you can see different parts of the video and you can go to whatever part you would like. I'll discuss this more later on in the conclusion, but they released the London Landmarks package, and now let's switch to that to show you the difference. And here we are in the London Landmark package by Orbix. You should be able to tell the difference straight away. As you can see, I'm flying a different flight path, but you've got the O2 there, which looks beautiful in this package. You've also got significantly a number of buildings that don't appear in the default scenery. Things like the HSBC tower you can see ahead of us. And also, as we get nearer to the centre, there's a lot more buildings. Obviously, you've got the Gherkin, you've got the walkie-talkie building, or whatever that's called. And there's so many different buildings, it looks more realistic. This package is a steal. It cost me just over £6. It's one of the cheapest scenery packages that I've seen. It's a pain in the backside to download it within Flight Simulator 2020, just be aware of that. If you can get it elsewhere, I would suggest doing that. But it adds so much. Now I want to explore every nook and cranny of London in Flight Simulator 2020. It's changed the area completely for me. It's a place I now want to fly around quite a lot. Like I say, for the price of just over £6, it's an absolute steal, and they fixed the problems that were originally there when they originally released this landmark package. Now everything's in pretty good sort of shape and good textures on the building. In fact, it looks absolutely fantastic. And it's flying around from the main hub of London. You start to discover other buildings and other hidden treasures. Absolutely recommend this scenery file. This is one to get. And now we come to Sydney. Here I am flying in the default Flight Simulator 2020 around Sydney Opera House in fact. And it all looks pretty good. It's one of the places I first wanted to visit. Obviously, I've heard of Sydney Opera House. I really wanted to see it in game. I was quite impressed with it. Sydney Harbour looks beautiful. The Opera House itself looks fine, as I would have expected it to look. the surrounding areas seem less busy. It's almost like it's auto-gen scenery. It doesn't look quite as I would have expected it to look. And I saw the Sydney scenery package reviewed, and I just had to get it. Let me show you this in Flight Simulator 2020. Now you should immediately be able to tell that the whole landscape of Sydney has changed with this add-on package. Now you've got that busy city around the Opera House, the city of Sydney, and even the surrounding areas look different. It looks more realistic and natural, as you would expect it to look. As you fly around the Opera House itself and the tall skyscrapers behind it, it looks absolutely amazing. This package cost me just over £11. I actually got it from Orbix themselves directly so I could download it. It's a bigger package than the London landmarks and Moscow landmarks. They sit around 1 GB each. This one is around 7 GB, but there's a lot of textures going on here. A lot more buildings have been added, and it just makes a huge difference. Again, for just over £11, this is a steal. It's about a third less than the cost of a normal scenery package that you would find for something like Prepared 3D or X-Plane. £11 is nothing, and for what you're getting here, it does look stunning. It does change the whole area of Sydney, takes it to a whole new level. I'll discuss more about that in the conclusion. Once again, grab this scenery package. There's a lot to discover in Sydney, a lot more than you would have first anticipated, a lot more than I first anticipated. Well worth it, absolutely recommended. And now we come to the Moscow package. This is Moscow in the default scenery. Now, I have been to Moscow in real life, probably around 20 years ago. It's a big, sprawling city, very large, lots of different and interesting landmarks obviously in Moscow. Wasn't really a place I wanted to visit in Flight Simulator 2020. Wasn't really encouraged to do that. The default scenery looks fine. Obviously some of the famous landmarks are there. Moscow State University, a couple of cathedrals, Red Square, that type of thing. But it all looks a bit autogenish. Lots of auto-gen scenery. Like I said, it's a big sprawling city, very different to the cities that I've just showed you previously, but it doesn't actually look great in the default scenery. Not recommended. Let me show you the scenery package, the enhanced version of Moscow. Once again, just like Sydney and London, the add-on package, the enhanced version of Moscow, looks very different to the default. The landscape, the cityscape, you could see it's more like a bustling, busy city. Something like you would have expected it to look like in real life. The actual scenery itself is very nice. Some of the famous landmarks look fantastic up close. The landmarks are not quite as close to each other like they were in London and Sydney. It's a big sprawling city, so the landmarks are quite far apart, but there's a lot of interesting sites to look at in this package, a lot of interesting additions, and it does look more natural. It's more interesting to fly around for sure. Now this package is a little bit more expensive than the other packages. It costs £14.99, £14.99 from Flight Simulator 2020 Marketplace. I actually got it from Sim Market and it cost me £1 extra, just over £16, just so I could avoid downloading it in Flight Simulator 2020. I could download it externally and it just worked a lot quicker. I was willing to pay that extra £1. It's a bit more to pay. It's not quite as impressive to me as the Sydney and London landmarks packages, but there's a lot of interesting features. It's now made Moscow more interesting to fly around for me in Flight Simulator 2020, so I'm going to get my money's worth for it, from it. I do recommend this one, not quite as much as the other ones, but it does add a lot more to Moscow than the default scenery. Okay, let me take you now to my conclusion. Now, if you haven't already worked it out for yourself, I completely recommend these 3 packages I've just discussed. If they remain at that price point, they're about half the cost as a normal scenery package that you would buy from X-Plane or Prepared 3D. At least half the cost, typically around 1/3 of the cost. You're getting immense value from these packages, and if future packages remain at that price point, then everything will be recommended as long as they're as impressive as these packages I've just shown you. They really elevate Flight Simulator 2020, which is already an incredible looking simulation. It's the best looking simulation out there at default. These now take it to a massively high new level, and I'm being very serious about that. I'm not just being flippant about that. They really do take it to a level that I would never have expected to have seen on a home computer. Absolutely brilliant. I'm looking forward to other areas being developed now, especially places in England, but also the US cities, the United States cities, and other cities around the world. These packages themselves just look incredible. Absolutely recommended. Go and get them. And there was another issue that I wanted to touch upon. Should all these buildings that I've just shown you in these packages have been included in the default simulator? I'm going to say yes and no to that. I mean, Flight Simulator 2020 has simulated worldwide cities on a massive scale. It would have been immensely difficult for them to produce every city at the level I've just shown you in this video. And like I said, partway through my video when I was reviewing the London landmarks package, that released at the same time that Flight Simulator 2020 did. It was obviously a statement by Asobo and Microsoft that they're going to open the doors to scenery package developers and aircraft developers to develop scenery files and aircraft to expand the simulator. This is something they set out before they even released Flight Simulator 2020. It's just a normal business practice with flight simulators. It's happened with Flight Simulator X, with X-Plane, DCS World and Prepared 3D. It's just a normal practice. I'm glad to see them. Like I said, it just takes Flight Simulator 2020 to a whole new level, makes the cities far more interesting to fly around, and it adds more value to your game. It adds more enjoyment. Well, listen, those are my thoughts. Let me know your own thoughts. What do you think about scenery add-on packages? I'll be interested to know. Give the video a like if you liked it, subscribe for more, and I shall see you soon.